You ever feel like you're just spinning your wheels trying to get to those huge goals you set for yourself? Well, today we're going to dive into a powerful way to achieve massive success. And it's not about making these giant heroic leaps. It's about tiny, almost invisible actions you take every single day. It's called the 1% rule. I mean, this is the ultimate question, right? What is the secret sauce? What separates the people who actually get where they want to go from those of us who just kind of dream about it? Turns out the answer is way, way simpler than you might think. So most of us, and hey, we've all been there, get trapped in what you could call the resolution mindset. You know the drill. We set some huge, crazy goal, go all out for a week, and then, poof, we crash and burn. It's super stressful, and it just never lasts. The 1% mindset, though, it flips this whole thing on its head. It's all about getting just a tiny bit better each day. It's about building real momentum, not just burning out. Okay, so to really understand why this small steps approach is so incredibly effective, we need to talk about the single biggest thing that actually motivates us and keeps us in the game, and that's the feeling of progress itself. So what exactly is the 1% rule? It's a beautifully simple but really profound idea. You just focus all your energy on making these tiny, continuous improvements every single day, and then you just sit back and let the incredible power of compounding do the heavy lifting for you. And look, this isn't just some feel-good, motivational fluff. It's actually built on two super solid pillars. First, you've got the progress principle, which is backed by a huge landmark study on motivation from Harvard. And second, you have Kaizen, the legendary Japanese business philosophy of continuous improvement. You know that Harvard study? It found something absolutely incredible. The real secret to staying motivated isn't some huge once-in-a-lifetime victory. Nope. It's simply the feeling that you're making progress. The second we feel like we're moving the needle even just a tiny, tiny bit, we get fired up. These small wins are literally the fuel that keeps our engine running. Okay, so we've established that small progress is everything. But how do we turn that idea into a concrete, actual formula for success? Well, let's break it down. Let's deconstruct it. The author, Tommy Baker, lays it out perfectly in 4 simple steps. You start with 1% progress. You apply that with daily consistency. You protect it with focused persistence. And then you sustain the whole thing with endurance over the long haul. That's it. That's the recipe for real achievement. And this right here, this is where the real magic happens. It's called compounding. Getting just 1% better every single day, I mean, it sounds like nothing, right? Barely noticeable. But if you do that for a year, you're not 365% better. No way. You're almost 38 times better. Just stop and think for a second what that would look like in any area of your life. Look, progress and consistency, they're the engine of your car. But persistence? Well, that's the 4-wheel drive that plows you through the thick mud when the road gets tough. It's the one force that transforms all that daily grind into a life-changing, honest-to-God breakthrough, especially on those days you feel like giving up. I mean, just look at J.K. Rowling. She gets the idea for Harry Potter way back in 1990. It takes her 5 years just to finish the manuscript. And then 12 different publishers, 12, tell her no thanks. And this was all happening while she was dealing with her mother's death, a divorce, and depression. But she just kept going. She persisted, and that sheer will is what separates her story from a million others that we'll never hear about. So this is all great in theory, but how do we actually do this? How do we put it into practice? Well, here's the secret. Stop thinking in years. Stop thinking about your 5-year plan, and start thinking in quarters. Let's look at a really practical way to turn that big vision of yours into a daily manageable action. The tool for this is something called 90-day rocks. Just think of them as these short-term goals that are big enough to actually matter. In fact, they should spark a little bit of fear in you. They should make you a little nervous. That's how you know you're on the right track. You're basically reverse engineering your biggest vision into a focused 90-day sprint. Here's a super practical example. So you take a pillar of your life, let's say business. Your 90-day outcome, your rock, is to bring in $35,000 in revenue. Okay, so how do you get there? Well, the core process is to reach about 2,500 leads. And then you break that down even further into your daily 1% action, making 27 prospect calls. See? That becomes your simple, non-negotiable action that guarantees you're making progress every single day. All right, so taking action is one thing. We can all get fired up for a few days, right? But sustaining that action over the long haul without completely burning out, that requires a very specific mindset. This is where endurance really comes into play. Here's a huge mindset shift for you. Stop chasing balance. The whole idea of work-life balance, of giving every single part of your life equal time and energy, it's a myth, and honestly, it's just frustrating. Instead, you should seek harmony. Think about how the different parts of your life can actually work together and fuel each other. Like how your work can provide for your family, which in turn gives you the drive and energy to crush it at work. And a key part of endurance, and this is going to sound counterintuitive, is disconnecting. Taking a break. And no, this is not about being lazy. This is a strategic tool for rejuvenation. It can be momentary, just stopping to take a few deep breaths. It could be a daily thing like reading a book or going for a walk. Or it could be a longer weekly or monthly break to really gain clarity. Trust me, this isn't wasted time. This is where your best ideas are going to come from. The message here is simple, but it is urgent. You have to be fiercely intentional with your time and your energy. Because if you don't decide what your 1% progress is for the day, the world will happily fill your time with a million distractions and someone else's agenda. Okay, so we've covered the principle, we've covered the formula, and we've covered the strategy. Now it all just comes down to this, taking that very first step. And it all starts with one simple, powerful question. So, it all comes down to this one question. Ask yourself this. What can I do right now? What can I execute on this very second that will prove to myself that my vision isn't just possible, but that it's actually happening? Whatever your answer is, that's it. That's your next step. That's your first 1%. Go take it.